Alright, Econ, here is demand. 8 slides, that's it. Here we go. Demand, demand, demand. The law of demand states, ceteris paribus, or all else equal, there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity for consumers. Which is to say, and I'm going to highlight the keywords here, if the price of the good increases, the quantity demanded decreases, while if the price of the good decreases, the quantity demanded increases. And it's really important to emphasize that because we don't want to say that as the price decreases, the demand increases. We want to say the quantity demanded increases. You'll see why in a minute. There are 3 reasons that economists give for this negative slope. Okay, and we set up our axes as price on the y-axis, quantity on the x-axis, and this is the inverse relationship. Right? At a high price, say P1, quantity demanded is low, and you lower the price to P2, and the quantity increases to Q2. Right? Negative slope. Diminishing margin of utility is reason number 1. We have talked about this in class, but for me to sell more of an item, I have to lower the price because the extra satisfaction one gets declines. This is when a store says, buy one, get the next one half off. They know the second one isn't as valuable to you, so to increase Q from Q1 to Q2, they need to lower the price from P1 to P2. Okay, reason number 2. This is another one that you already know and understand. We're just naming it, the income effect. The income effect, let's give the example of, you go to SI. You go to Super America to buy a Monster drink. I've never had one of these. I see you people eating and drinking these, eating these all the time. Let's imagine that instead of just P1, they're $3, and at $3 you would buy one of them, right? Your income can go up 2 ways. 1, you get more dollars. 2, the price decreases. Let's say the price of a Monster drops to $1. What just happened to your purchasing power? You would plan to buy one at $3. Now you could buy 3 at $1. You could do 3 times as much work. So this is called the income effect, right? Your money goes further when the price drops, and that's another reason for the inverse relationship. The last reason is the substitution effect. What this states is, at $3 you buy one Monster, at $1 you're buying 3 because you may be buying less of something else. You didn't buy a Red Bull, you didn't buy a coffee, you didn't buy candy because this was such a good deal at $1 that you increased the purchase of Monster. So this is a substitute. Alternatively, when the price goes up on Monster, you substitute away from it and buy less. That's why you buy only one at $3. So this is the least understood piece in economics. College professors consistently say this. It's the difference between a shift and a movement. So we're going to start with the demand curve in each instance, and we have this inverse relationship. I'm actually going to start over here on the right with a movement. We're going to call this a change in quantity demanded, right? And we've been doing this. As you lower the price from P1 to P2, quantity demanded goes up from Q1 to Q2. That is a movement along the demand curve, say from point A to point B. And if you raise the price, the quantity demanded changes again by moving in this direction. Okay? The distinction here is that that's all ceteris paribus. Remember that? A shift is going to be a change in demand. It's a pretty bad delta symbol. A change in demand. That's a whole lot better. Okay. That's a change in demand. That's a shift. That's a change in demand. That's a shift. To the right is an increase, and to the left is a decrease. And if you're having trouble seeing that, pick a price, like right here. Pick that P. Go straight across. You were initially right here. D1 went to the right. D2 went to the left. That's a change in demand. That's where we say ceteris paribus. No, we're going to change things. Natural question, what are we going to change? These 5 things: income, the number of buyers, expectations of future price, prices of other goods, and tastes and preferences. Okay? Now I lined it up to spell inept. That's kind of cute for you, but I don't want you to just memorize that. I want you to understand this. Quick examples. You have a demand curve. We're going to do the demand for apples. Nationwide, everybody's income increases. You would expect the demand for apples to increase. Right? That's not a change in price. That would be a movement. This is a change in something else, like everybody's income. Nationwide, everyone's income goes down. Demand for apples drops from D to D2. Number 1 done. Number 2, number of buyers. Nationwide, the population increases. You would expect D to D1. Demand for apples goes up. Population decreases. D to D2. Expectations of future price. Right, so this isn't the price now, this is the price in the future. You're starting at D, and the news comes out. We expect there to be an increase in price in the future for apples. That would increase the demand for apples today from D to D1. If you expect the future price to be lower, you hear it's a bumper crop, and the prices are going to go down in the future, that would decrease demand today because you're going to wait for the future lower price. Prices of other goods, that's substitutes and complements. We're going to do that on this page. We're going to start with substitutes. These are things that you typically don't buy both of. And I know you're going to tell me, oh, I always buy butter and margarine, but typically people buy one or the other. This illustrates shift in movement really well. Imagine you lower the price on butter. Movement. Quantity demanded of butter increases. What does that do to the demand for margarine? Drops. Did you change the price of margarine? No, you didn't. You changed the price of butter. Movement, shift. Okay? Let's do compliments. And this isn't like compliment, you look nice today. This is compliment like things you buy together. Spelled differently. Okay. Demand, demand. Things you buy together. We'll do an easy one. Printer and ink. Classic technique. They lower the price on the printer. From P to P1, quantity demanded of printers increases, and what does that do to the demand for ink? You need the ink, so the demand increases. Actually, we could go in the other direction. You raise the price on printers, quantity demanded, again, these are changes in quantity demanded. You raise the price, the quantity demanded goes down, and what happens to the demand for ink? It decreases. Did you change the price of ink? No, you changed the price of the printer. Now, I should have done the substitute in the other direction as well, but I think you get the idea. That's how substitutes and complements work. We'll practice in class. And the last one, tastes and preferences. It's really cool to eat apples. Demand for apples goes up. Hey, it's really lame to eat apples. Demand for apples goes down. So those are shifters. That means the whole demand curve is changing. There's a change in demand, not a change in quantity demanded. Okay? Last exception here, well, there's 2 exceptions, forgive me, in 30 seconds. A normal good is one where when your income goes up, you buy more of it. Right? So an income increase, demand increases. An inferior good would mean that when your income increases, you buy less of it. So if I had more income, I'd buy more new books. You'd call those normal goods. And I would buy fewer used books. So you'd call those inferior goods, used books. Right? This is from The Onion. During the recession, people were selling tons of Spam. You would say when incomes went down, demand for Spam went up, and therefore it's an inferior good. They moved in opposite directions. When income went down, demand for ham went down, therefore it's a normal good. Last thing, economists do recognize that there are goods that are not inversely related between price and quantity. They're called Giffen goods, right? Alfred Marshall explains, Mr. Giffen has pointed out that a rise in the price of bread makes so large a drain on the resources of the poor laboring families and raises so much the marginal utility of money to them that they're forced to curtail their consumption of meat and the more expensive farinaceous foods, and bread being still the cheapest, which they can get and will take, they consume more, not less of it. The key idea here is still the cheapest. There are times when something's getting more expensive, but it's still relatively cheaper, that you'll buy more of it. So you'd have an upward sloping demand curve. But again, the exception proves the rule. There's an inverse relationship. Farewell.